Welcome to the Legal Code. If it's your first time here, this is a channel dedicated to discussing various legal topics, whether that affects you as an individual or you as a small business owner. We discuss it all here and we try to make it fun and have a twist on it, but something that you could take away that adds value to your life. Occasionally we do touch on celebrity shenanigans because let's face it, it's ripe for the picking, but only in so much as you can gain something from their mishaps, their legal mishaps. I don't care about pop culture. I only care about the nuggets, the moments that we can learn from and apply it to our everyday life. So if you like that sort of thing, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're a returning guest, thank you for coming back and allowing me to share what I know with you. I really appreciate your support. And this is I don't get paid to do this. I have a day job, but this is such a labor of love, and I really enjoy sharing what I learn with all of you. Now, without a beat, we are getting into a sad topic today. Unfortunately, for those who are unaware, learned about the death of 3 young people who passed away while vacationing in Mexico City. So it's with a heavy heart that I report this story. So this video is pretty much about the untimely death of 3 young Americans visiting Mexico City who were staying in an Airbnb where there was apparently a carbon monoxide leak that killed all 3 of the friends who were staying together. Their names are Jordan Marshall, 28 years old, a 12th grade English teacher. Cortez Hall, 33-year-old, was a 7th grade teacher, social studies teacher, and Candace Florence, who is only 28 years old, who founded a candle business a few years ago. So they were all staying in this apartment that they found on Airbnb in Mexico City in the town La Rosita, a neighborhood in Mexico City. Now, according to the Attorney General's office, which launched an investigation after learning about the October 30th deaths, they reported the death of 3 foreigners derived from possible poisoning by gas inhalation. Now, carbon monoxide is an odorless gas found in fumes from fuel-borne vehicles, stoves, lanterns, grill, fireplaces, furnaces, household items. And according to the CDC, I know we're all skeptical of the CDC at this point, the symptoms of prolonged inhalation include headaches, dizziness, weakness, upset stomach, vomiting, chest pain, and confusion. And so, unfortunately, they believe this is how these friends passed away. In an interview with CNN, Candace Florence's boyfriend, whose name is Victor Day, he said he checked in on her the morning of the day that she is alleged to have passed away. She texted him back around 4:10 in the morning, and she said that she didn't feel well emotionally. She just wanted to go home and she thought she'd been drugged. He then decided to FaceTime her and then noticed that she looked distressed. So he tried to reach her later on in the morning to no avail, he said. And then he contacted Marshall, who was her friend staying with her, and he didn't get any response from. Then he contacted the Airbnb host because he wasn't getting any responses from anyone else. After not hearing back from his girlfriend nor Marshall, the boyfriend then reached out to the Airbnb host in Mexico City and asked them to perform a wellness check. Maybe 10 to 15 minutes later, he said that the host wrote back to him saying that all 3 were in the apartment and they were found unresponsive with no vital signs, and that emergency services were contacted. And of course, his heart sank at that point. According to a statement from the local police in Mexico City, they said that the security guards detected an intense smell of gas in the apartment and called the local authorities. Paramedics arrived on the scene and then they determined that they were all dead. The Attorney General's office has ordered an investigation. The U.S. Department confirmed the death, saying it was monitoring the investigation, but they will await the Mexican authorities. And of course, the families are looking to Airbnb for assistance because they are the host platform for people to stay. They can't ensure the safety of users, but they can have a baseline requirement, such as requiring smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors in every single listing. If that means that they have to go through the most inhospitable places in the world, hire inspectors, deploy inspectors to these regions to monitor and make sure that there are installed smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, this is what they should do. This is a horrible story. This story tells you that it is worth it for Airbnb to invest in this type of triage because it's a terrible tragedy. But the Airbnb has said they're willing to help the family in any means necessary and insist with any inquiries. Hopefully, they should be providing translators, because I've seen some stories where the loved ones are saying it's been so difficult dealing with the language barrier. So that is one of the things that Airbnb should be providing, is translators, especially. I mean, I think this is such a low-hanging fruit for them to be able to provide for the loved ones. Someone who speaks Spanish, like, that's not that difficult. So it's unfortunate to see that after tragedy, there's still these families are still having to navigate these loopholes, as well as Airbnb should have contacts in every country, because their platform is available, their host is available in so many countries. So in that many countries, they should have a go-to person in the event, other than the embassy, but a go-to person to provide translation services, to voice complaints. This is just my idea. Someone who's a direct hire of Airbnb that can reach people who have an official capacity and deal with these sort of nuanced things. My guess is it will start to happen more and more in the future. The other day I was looking on a Facebook group, and someone else reported that their loved one was missing for a few days, was staying in an Airbnb hotel, and they later learned, the loved one later learned, that this loved one had been poisoned, and this was in Colombia, that he had been poisoned, and that they're working with the Colombian authorities to get the body back to the United States. So this happens all too often, that loved ones are left in the dark, and that they need a go-to person that works on behalf of the government, as well as sort of like a liaison between the government and Airbnb to deal with these sorts of inquiries. Airbnb can also mandate that there are working smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors in every single unit. This inspection could be done once a year, that every host knows around this time next year that there's someone coming to check and inquire whether or not they have functioning carbon and monoxide, up-to-date carbon monoxide and smoke detectors, so that future tragedies like this can be avoided. So let's look at the Airbnb website, what they say about carbon monoxide detectors. Airbnb does not require carbon monoxide detectors. It's not mandatory in order to host on their platform, which I thought was really interesting, but it's strongly suggested. So let's look at their website. First, they state that carbon monoxide exposure is a common cause of fatal poisoning around the world. For example, according to the CDC, carbon monoxide is the leading cause of accidental poisoning death in the United States. As hosts, it's important that we take steps to keep guests safe in your space. With this in mind, we encourage you to, and they have suggestions. So I looked this up to see how many deaths happen as a result of carbon monoxide poisoning. And this was interesting. It says that typically in a year, nearly 400 Americans die from carbon monoxide poisoning, usually in their own home or car. Many of those deaths happen around winter months, when people are heating their homes and reducing the amount of outside ventilation. Even if CO levels are not high enough to be fatal, they can produce serious illness. Here are some common household items that emit or that can emit carbon monoxide fumes when they burn the fuel. So it's not that these household items function with carbon monoxide, it's just, I guess, the chemical response when they're put into use that they produce the carbon monoxide. So burning fuels such as coal, wood, propane, gasoline, natural gas, kerosene, oil, methane, also a wood burning fireplace, an attached garage, a generator near door openings or windows, gas or charcoal grills near the exterior of a window. So your furnace, water heater, stove, space heaters, fireplace, wood stove, charcoal grill, dryer, even your dryer where you dry your clothes, can all be sources of CO, especially if they're not in good working condition and they are not properly installed in order to have proper ventilation. Vehicle exhaust fumes from attached garages also can become CO hazards. Using kerosene heaters or charcoal grills indoors, some people do that. I know it's crazy, but some people do that. Or running a car in a garage can cause CO levels to rise high enough to result in death or serious illness. Unlike natural gas or LP gas, liquefied petroleum gas, which have a characteristic odor, you smell it, that's added to them to alert you. Carbon monoxide has no fumes, no color. We breathe in CO, normal air, with no irritation to our respiratory system, to our nose, to our throats, and then our blood cells attach with CO molecules instead of oxygen molecules, starving our organs from the oxygen that they need. For these reasons, this is why CO, carbon monoxide, is called the silent killer. So it's important for you to evaluate your home immediately when your CO alarm goes off. While there's no risk of explosion, a lot of people think it'll cause an explosion. It won't, like there would be with natural gas. The effects of CO in your blood are accumulative, and the longer you're exposed to it, the longer it takes to rid your body of its effects. It's extremely toxic, as you know now that it's fatal in many instances. So carbon monoxide detectors are the only way to protect ourselves. And until AirBNB requires hosts to require it, guess what? You're gonna have to protect yourself. If that means you have to carry a CO alarm with you whenever you're traveling, maybe that's what you have to do. I know it sounds extreme, but I don't think so. And I think many people look to innkeepers, we look to hotels, we look to these establishments to be checking all the boxes, to making sure that your safety is of the utmost priority. Of course, we have that dialogue. I guess we don't even think about it. We're like, oh, we're staying in Airbnb. They'll have everything. They have nice photos. It looks clean. It looks pristine. It's in a doorman building. You expect them to be up to date when it comes to fire safety. But unfortunately, many drop the ball in this instance, and the result is fatal. It's a tragedy. Also, until the regulations match up and there's compliance across the board, you can't rely on the host to protect you. And if you are the host listening to this video, or someone has shared this with you, if you know anyone who has Airbnb who does short-term or long-term rentals, it is the worst news to have someone die and it's within your responsibility, within your care, and you have a duty of care to them. A lot of people go into the Airbnb business and all they want to talk about is that the money that they'll make, and they'll be the next guru, they'll be the next investment guru, and they'll make $10 million a year. But heavy is the head that wears the crown. You want to be a boss? Well, you have to make sure your property is pristine and up to date with current fire codes. So as we're talking about carbon monoxide detectors, we do have to touch on smoke alarms. I watch a lot of YouTube videos and I hear the constant fire alarm chirping in the background. You need to handle that. That is such a sign of neglect. Whenever I hear that fire alarm chirping, it's the most annoying thing. And it's annoying for a reason, to alert you to fix the problem. Fire alarms are not decorative, but are there to alert you of danger. And to those who take the batteries out in order to put it into your remote control, that's reckless, unnecessary. I don't care if the smoke alarm goes off every time you're cooking. That is to protect your life. And some of you have children. Generally, fire safety legislation exists nearly in every nation. Some are extensive and complete, while others may be extremely basic, maybe even primitive. The origins of nearly all of the legislation are varied as to the number of countries where it is applied. The United States, for example, over the past 100 or so years has federal government enacted legislation, which is substantial. America had a lot of fire deaths during the early part of the 20th century. And so in order to prevent fires, people dying in their homes of fire, America got really, really strict, especially in urban areas in terms of fire safety. However, the United States, by its very nature, is a federal republic with 50 states. It's very fragmented in the laws when it comes to establishing unification of all the laws across each state. Each state, county, and municipal, they all have their own separate legislation that's tailored to that county's wants. It's that nuance. A city may have different fire requirements, fire regulation requirements that different from the state. So there's not consistency there. So there's often conflicting laws with that of neighboring neighborhoods. In many states, you can exceed their code at a local level. Like New York and California, for instance, are the gold standard when it comes to fire safety. So if you are renting a dwelling, or you're a landlord, or you're in the short-term rental business, look to New York and California for guidance as it relates to fire safety laws, because they are the gold standard. They lead the pack. They have the best firefighters and fire safety education in the nation. For instance, New York requires that all of the New York requires that all new or replacement smoke detectors sold in New York State be either powered by a 10-year sealed non-removable battery or hardwired to the home. So you can't take out the battery, it's sealed and it lasts for 10 years. So people who have not updated to this new smoke alarm, when they go to buy, if they want to buy one with replaceable batteries, that won't be available in the stores. And that started back in 2019. So the new modern smoke detectors that are either hardwired or have the non-removable battery are the only ones sold in the stores in New York State. There are other states that also require it, but again, it's not ubiquitous across the United States. So we're looking at California, we're looking at New York, like I mentioned, Florida, Michigan, Ohio, Connecticut, and parts of Texas. All have adopted the sealed battery smoke detectors sold in that state. Sealed battery detectors will cost you more upfront, but over the life of the detector, it will be cheaper because you're not replacing the battery every year. Also, I went and I looked at the statistics about fire protection laws. So it is this website, National Fire Protection Association. It estimates that in the US, a fire department responds to a fire every 23 seconds. One home structure fire was reported every 93 seconds. One home fire-related injury occurs every 47 minutes. One home fire-related death occurs every 3 hours and 8 minutes. Fire in the United States, the US has one of the highest fire deaths in the industrialized world. I was like, this is crazy to me. I'm like, are you serious? About 5,000 people die every year in this country as a result of fire, and another 2,500 are injured as a result of fire. About 100 firefighters are killed annually in duty and related to saving people due to a fire. Each year, fire kills more Americans than any other natural disaster combined. And fire is the third leading cause of accidental deaths in homes. At least 80% of all fire deaths occur in residences. More than 2 million fires are reported each year. Many others go unreported, causing additional injuries, property loss, etc. Affects the integrity of a property once a fire has occurred. And there's, I guess this information came from an insurance company. Property loss due to fires is estimated at $9.4 billion annually. But what saves lives? A working smoke alarm. It dramatically increases a person's chance of surviving a fire. Approximately 90% of US homes have at least one smoke alarm. But these alarms are not always properly maintained as a result of it not working properly during an emergency, and people taking the battery out, like I mentioned, or not replacing the battery, and so they die of smoke inhalation. People don't usually get consumed in the fire. It's that they don't wake up. It happens in the middle of the night and they don't wake up because of the smoke. There has been a disturbing increase also over the last 10 years in the number of fires that occur in homes with non-functioning alarms. It's estimated that over 40% of residential fires and 60% of residential fatalities occur in homes with no smoke alarm. Residential sprinklers have become more cost effective for homes. Currently, very few homes have them because they are expensive to install. And most homes aren't hardwired to have smoke sprinklers in them. So again, this is a tragic video. I really report this with a very heavy heart, with this grim, sad news. But here's what you can do perhaps. If you have an Airbnb business, check your detectors monthly as you have guests coming in and out. You don't know what they're doing with the smoke alarm. It's your responsibility to check the units for smoke alarm and that the smoke alarm is functioning. The carbon monoxide is on, especially if it's not hardwired in. As an innkeeper, which is what you are, if you have an Airbnb business, you have a legal obligation to provide a duty of care. And if someone is staying on your property and you breach this, you are liable for sudden injuries, even death. So let me know what you're thinking. Let me know your thoughts. Were you aware that carbon monoxide detectors and smoke alarms were not ubiquitous and required in every single dwelling, in every single hotel? Did you think that there was a baseline requirement of these? I know I thought I did before doing this video. It's only after I did a lot of research that I realized there's so many inconsistencies. But I do remember looking on like Airbnb rentals and seeing carbon monoxide crossed out. And I didn't think anything of it because I thought it was a given that it's required. Perhaps being from New York, I have a little more privilege in thinking that, oh, it's so mandatory because fire safety, fire alarms, smoke alarms constantly being talked about in New York because of so many tragedies that happen over the years. And so there's so much oversight in terms of making sure dwellings have them. I took it for granted. I would not even guess that they're not mandatory. But let me know what you thought. If you have suggestions for Airbnb in terms of implementing and requiring smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors, what do you think should be done? Do you think that they need to hire people to act as liaisons whenever there are deaths? Sorry about that. My memory card ran out of memory while I was at the end of the video and I had to go change it. Production woes, as you know. I'm the only one here, so I gotta do everything. And so I left off on asking you whether or not you think Airbnb should hire liaisons in each country, each city of the country, where they will handle these sorts of wrongful death suits whenever anyone dies that is from another country, sort of work, because America is the host country, that will work with the American embassies and various embassies to make sure that the family has a translator that knows the protocol, that knows about customs in terms of claiming the body, clearing customs, having the body clear customs on the other side, because this is so overwhelming to deal with. A language barrier, customs, foreign diplomacy, like, they need help. I feel for this family so much because it's such a tragic loss. They're all so young with so much potential with them. The least Airbnb can do with these sorts of things is hire people to walk families through these tragic events. Let me know your thoughts. Do you have a better suggestion than I do? All comments are welcome in the comment sections. Let me know, and don't forget to like and subscribe and share with anyone else. I know we know at least somebody who stayed in an Airbnb, whether that's domestically or internationally. Let them know that they might have to be a little more vigilant in terms of protecting themselves. Consistency in the laws as it relates to fire safety and carbon monoxide. Share this with anyone who you know owns multiple properties, has Airbnb rentals. Let them know their duty of care where they have guests staying in their home, that they have a duty to maintain the property, maintain the safety of the property. And so I leave you with this, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.